Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one is entitled Gravity Wave on Venus Suggests Planet X Presence. Now, in 2015, a curious bulge was detected for the first time on Venus's atmosphere by the Japanese probe Akatsuki. The event has repeated itself many times since, and it puzzled the astronomers who had no available answers as to what could possibly have caused such a bulge. The bulge has reappeared many times, and it remains in Venus's atmosphere for days at a time before disappearing. The bulge, which seems to stay stationary with respect to the surface of the planet, was interpreted as a gravity wave by a group of Japanese scientists, who also thought that it was created by Venus's very high mountain ranges. The planet's rotational period is 116 days, but its atmosphere has a rotational period of 4 days. And since the bulge stays in position with respect to the surface, the Japanese scientists thought that it must be created by the mountain ranges over which it forms. And here you see the bulge. It formed on Venus, and the date here is 2015, December 7th. You can see over the next 4 days the bulge was still there, but this means that it must stay stationary with respect to the surface, because the atmosphere should have completed one rotation in that time. And as you can see, the wave is in the form of an arc, as if it is part of a ring. And it can be discerned on the radiance. This is the radiance image. You can just see it there. It can just be discerned. So its crest is both brighter and hotter. So this is slightly brighter here, so it's hotter than the surrounding atmosphere. You can see here, brightness means hotter. But this had never been observed before, and Venus has been observed and studied for many years now. The orbiter of the Pioneer Venus probe orbited Venus between December 1978 and October 1992. One of its primary objectives was to study Venus's upper atmosphere and ionosphere. This probe never detected a bulge on Venus's atmosphere. Venus's mountain ranges are not new, so if they were the cause of such a phenomenon, then that phenomenon should have been observed before. So what could be causing this to occur on Venus? Well, the Japanese scientists were, I think, correct that such a bulge would indicate a gravitational wave. In other words, a gravitational disruption of Venus's gravity, which can only be induced from outside of the planet, i.e. by a massive celestial object closely approaching Venus. It is possible that the fact that the wave remained stationary was confusing for them, as normal astronomical bodies do not remain stationary with respect to each other. And yet only a massive object very close to Venus and stationary with respect to it could create such a stationary gravitational wave. But we do have objects in the solar system that have been observed to remain stationary inside the sun's corona with respect to the sun's surface, and we have seen these objects also remain stationary with respect to the Earth. In addition, Earth has experienced gravitational anomalies, such as ocean recession events, which could only have been created by these objects closely approaching Earth. These objects appear to be a part of a system which I have named the Planet X system. This system is made up of dead or energy-depleted stars and planets, and appears to be much larger than our solar system. The Planet X system is a destroyer of star systems. It absorbs all the energy contained in the objects of a star system, thus turning them into dead objects as well. When stars and planets become energy depleted, they lose the ability to emit light and to interact gravitationally. They also lose their outer layers of material until the solid core is exposed. which is why I often refer to these objects as stellar cores. And you may look at Article 244 entitled The Planet X System, Destroyer of Star Systems. And here we see one of these stellar cores. This is one of the smallest ones, about half the size of Jupiter. And it's making a connection with the Sun. You can see it is inside the Sun's inner corona. And it is stationary with respect to the Sun's surface. Its gravitational influence is creating a vortex. You can see this vortex, this connection here. It's a vortex from deeper within the Sun. It actually comes from the chromosphere, the material in the vortex. And so through it, this object is drawing material towards itself from the Sun. And the chromosphere is liquid, so it's like the Sun's ocean. And here we see some of the evidence about regarding the ocean recession events that have occurred on Earth. This is the first one that I was made aware of on August 11, 2017. It occurred in Uruguay. As you can see, these boats were left sitting on the mud at the bottom of this harbor. You can see how much the ocean dropped from about there to perhaps there. And here, this occurred in Tampa Bay, Florida on September 10th, 2017. And again, you see that it was an ocean recession event. Now, here, of course, the water did come back, which showed that it was a tidal event. And there were no storms to be blamed because there were no storms offshore. But here, a hurricane was blamed. But the hurricane actually passed overhead before the water started returning the next morning. And this showed that the ocean recession did not occur as a result of hurricane winds. But it does indicate that an attempt was made to cover up this event with a hurricane. And you may look at Article 227 entitled Stellar Cores Affecting Earth and Possible Connection to Volcanic Eruptions. And this was again attempted recently with Hurricane Florence. And for more details on that, you may look at Article 343 entitled Hurricane Florence Cover-Up for Tidal Force from Object in Outer Space. However, it is likely that both the hurricane and the tidal event were created by a stellar core. And here we see two of the objects that have been captured by the Earth or that have attached themselves to the Earth, and these are stellar cores, as I will show you. And you can see these two objects. One is pinky orange, the other one looks white. This would seem to be the Sun at first. It's the brightest light source in the sky, but it turns out it cannot be the Sun. It's actually the Sun simulator, and I've written many articles on that. If you're interested, you may look at Article 226b. Now you can see some lens flares in this image. Lens flares are always in front of everything in the image. They are in the foreground. But these objects have chemtrail clouds in front of them, so they are in the background. They are not lens flares. They are real objects in the sky. Now, these objects actually were stationary in the sky. They did not move. The Sun simulator was observed to move across from one to the others. You can see this one's becoming visible now as the Sun simulator moves this way. It's getting closer to it here. So the Sun simulator moved, and you can see in the timestamp, there's 10 minutes, another 10 minutes, another 10 minutes, another 10 minutes. So over the space of 40 minutes, the Sun simulator, of course, moved. The objects did not move. They remained in the same position. And no objects in the sky are supposed to stay stationary because the Earth is, of course, rotating, except maybe objects that are in a geosynchronous orbit. But the likelihood that these objects are in geosynchronous orbits is extremely slim. Instead, they are most likely stellar cores. And stellar cores are able to remain stationary with respect to the host body. So they do it with the sun, and they would do it with the Earth. But this does indicate that they are most likely actually inside the Earth's atmosphere, just like the ones that remain stationary with respect to the sun are inside the sun's atmosphere, or the sun's corona. Now, the fact that stellar cores in the sun's corona appear to remain stationary within the sun's atmosphere or corona, and those reaching Earth also remain stationary with respect to the surface of the Earth for extended periods of time, suggests that one of the objects, a stellar core, is responsible for the bulge or gravitational wave on Venus. In other words, a stellar core very close to Venus was responsible for the observed bulge. The fact that the same bulges continue to be observed suggests that the same object is closely approaching Venus and causing the bulge. The object obviously remains stationary with respect to the planet for long periods of time and then moves away, only to return. Stellar cores have been observed doing the exact same thing with the sun for a long time now. And this shows that these objects are not just congregated around the sun, but also around other solar system objects. Stellar cores are energy absorbers, and any planet that is still generating energy in its core is thus attractive to them. In conclusion, a stellar core which has attached itself to the planet is most likely responsible for the gravitational bulge which has been observed appearing on Venus's atmosphere since 2015. The continued presence of such an object in close proximity to Venus suggests that these objects have attached themselves to other solar system objects in addition to the sun. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X Physicist. Thank you for watching.